I don't want a lot from the dawning. There is just one thing I need. I don't want more edge transits. That gun always drops for me. I just want that awesome bow. More than you would ever know. Make my wish come true. All I want from the dawning is. Oh. Well, sure, I suppose that'll do. Hello, fellow Guardians, it is Jay here, and thank you for joining me on the very first exotic weapons review for this channel. Now, the Cerberus+1 dropped with the Forsaken DLC. It's been out a while, but exotic drop rates were atrocious. They have been buffed recently, but collecting all of the exotic Forsakens that come from exotic engrams or powerful gear drops has still been pretty challenging, especially if you are a filthy casual like myself who doesn't have nearly as much time to play this game as I do. So this is who the review is for. It's for me, and it's for all the casual solo players out there. I've gotten my hands on this weapon, I played it for a bit, so let's take a look at it. Firstly, we're going to take a look at the weapon's perks. First, its intrinsic exotic perk. Four-headed dog shoots erratic bullets from all gun barrels at the same time, so you can see by the gun's appearance and guess by its name, it's a four-barreled gun. It was something that was thrown together with spare parts. It's got two Jubilee clips holding it together of all things. Wow, sci-fi in the future, ain't I right? Now, because it has four barrels, each barrel has its own perk for it as well. So firstly, we have Rifled Barrel. Increases range and greatly decreases handling speed. Secondly, we have Fluted Barrel. Greatly increases handling speed, slightly increases stability. Next, we have Full Bore Barrel. Greatly increases range, decreases stability, slightly decreases handling speed. And lastly, we have Spread Shot Package. Aiming this weapon reduces the spread of its projectiles. So you've got a lot of buffs from those perks there, but if you look at the actual stats at the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you have for an auto rifle decent impact, but for its range, stability, handling and reload speed are atrocious, and all you have to do is compare it to another exotic weapon. Let's take the Cerberus regime here as an example. If you look at that, for that tiny bit of extra impact, you're like massacring all of your other stats. The only saving grace that this weapon has is that it has four barrels that it's firing at the same time. So maybe comparing it to another auto rifle with a single barrel isn't really fair. So how does this hold up in gameplay? For the purposes of this exotic weapons review, and any exotic weapons review I do in the future, I will be looking at three specific categories. I will be looking at the weapon's functionality in PvE, PvP, and Gambit. And within each category, I will give the weapon a designation, a ranking if you will, a grade. It'll either be dubbed trash, viable, or a god roll. So, let's take a look at Cerberus+1 in PvE. This gun is so much fun to use in PvE. It is an ad clearing machine. If you find yourself within close proximity to a bunch of red barred enemies, you are going to melt them like it's nobody's business. And even then, the range on the Cerberus+1 isn't that bad when it comes to dealing with red bar enemies. Now, you're not going to be sniping hobgoblins from halfway across a room, but it does have a much more effective killing range with red barred enemies than you would actually think based on its stats. And then when you look at something like your majors, it actually staggers them quite effectively while doing decent damage to them. So you can save your special ammo for your shotgun, say, and then just use the Cerberus+1 to deal with them. So when you look at your easy, low-stakes content, and what I mean by that is your lost sectors, your public events, your daily story missions, Cerberus+1 is extremely viable, and it's so much fun. You're going to have a blast using it. But when you get into the end game content, and especially if you're a solo player, you're going to run into a couple of problems here. The one saving grace I'll say that the Cerberus+1 had for me when I used it was when the first forge opened, I was too low a power level to be anyway effective in it. Even on the first wave, much to my shame, killing ads wasn't difficult, but it just took longer than it really should for me to be effective in the forge. And when I got the Cerberus+1, that changed despite it not increasing my power level a whole lot. But on top of that, you have to look at your secondary weapon and your heavy weapon, because in that same encounter I was referring to in the Forge, when the boss spawned, I didn't have a decent heavy weapon, I didn't have a decent secondary weapon, so I could take on the ads with the Cerberus+1, but once the boss spawned, I couldn't barely do any DPS to it. I was able to throw out one Chaos Reach on him, and that was it, and we wound up losing. So if you're going to bring Cerberus+1 into the Forges or the Nightfall, for the love of God, have a decent heavy weapon to supplement it. It is viable, but as a casual player, I'm not referring to raids. I have no idea with raids, but looking at Forges and Nightfalls, it can be used, but you can probably tell by the tone of my voice, there are much better options. You could even just use 3 legendary weapons and do better. It's viable, and if you're a high enough power level, and if you're skilled enough, you can use it. So for PvE overall, I'm going to put it as viable with an asterisk beside it. Extremely viable in easy low stakes content, viable with the end game content, but you have to be careful with your loadout. If you have other exotics, I'd say you're more than likely going to end up going for them. And yes, I am referring, of course, to the Thunder Lord. Now on to PvP. A quick disclaimer first though. I am not bad at PvP. But I ain't going flawless in trials either, if you know what I'm saying. I was quite giddy going into the Crucible, actually. I was clutching my Cerberus+1 close to my chest, thinking of all the strategies I'm going to use, because I am a very up-close and personal combatant, so the Cerberus+1 really does benefit my playstyle. But the problem I encountered with the Cerberus+1 is its dynamic range, or should I say, its lack of dynamic range. There's a very few set of circumstances where the Cerberus+1 is effective, and for it to be really effective, there's only one circumstance, and that is when you're at very close proximity to someone and you're flanking them from the side without them knowing that you're there. If you get into close range with someone and they have a hand cannon, your exotic weapon isn't going to give you a huge advantage over them. That staggering effect that you get with the majors in PvE doesn't carry over as well into the PvP. A better Devil's Hand Cannon is going to stagger you more than your Cerberus+1 is going to stagger them. And say for looking at a gun like Luna's Howl, it's going to massacre you. And don't even get me started on any sort of long range, and don't get me started on any sort of medium range. You have to be within about 6 feet of an opposing Guardian to be able to be anyway effective with the Cerberus, and the odds of you getting that close to every Guardian you encounter without them knowing you are there is slim to none. Cerberus+1 is trash in PvP. You can use anything else. If you've got a better Devil's Hand Cannon, you could have terrible rolls. Use that instead. I have a Bygones Pulse Rifle with Rampage and Outlaw. Why would I ever use Cerberus+1 over that? And a very obvious defense you could spring to for the Cerberus+1 is that auto rifles aren't the meta right now. So while I'm saying it is trash now, if auto rifles, or should I say when auto rifles get buffed, and if Cerberus+1 can get an exotic catalyst that will increase its range, then maybe it can be just about viable in PvP. But as it stands right now, it is absolutely rubbish. If you want to take on people at close range, just use a shotgun and save up your other slot for something else. And finally, we have Gambit. So, for the PvE aspect of Gambit, Cerberus+1, again, is actually pretty decent. At close proximity, you are going to mop up the red barred ads fairly quickly, and the greatest attribute that the Cerberus+1 has is the fact that it will instantly stagger a taken phalanx that guards the bank. So if you run up to one of those taken phalanxes, slide past their shield, your opening shot is going to stagger them, and you will have killed them before they have a chance to recover. So you can get rid of the taken phalanxes very quickly, and you're able to save your special ammo for whatever you use in your secondary slot. So it's excellent for that. When it comes to the Primeval, though, it's going to be useless. You're going to want a decent heavy weapon, or even maybe a decent secondary weapon to do your DPS on the boss. You can get close to a Primeval to use the Cerberus+1, but it's only for a split second. So it makes it practically useless. If you're getting that close to the Primeval, you're going to be wanting to use a decent shotgun. So for PvE in Gambit, viable with an asterisk beside it, totally dependent on what the other two weapons you're using are, just like the endgame in regular PvE. And then when we come to PvP in Gambit, it's even worse than it would be in the Crucible, because the meta in Gambit at the moment is so long ranged, you'd barely see a fight get closer than 20 meters. Maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but the fights are so long range, and you can melt an opposing Guardian with full health, full shields, and full overshields very quickly, but you have to get the drop on them, and you have to be right beside them, and they can't know you're there, and the bloody invader can see you no matter where you are. So it hasn't happened to me. I actually know from PvP, you can melt the overshield, the shield, and the health very quickly, and they won't have time to react if you ambush them. I managed to catch a guy respawning, sorry bro. But in Gambit, it's not going to happen. They're invading you, you're not 100% sure where they are, you have an idea, but you don't know where they are, they know where you are. Odds are you're not going to be able to sneak up on them. So useless in that regard. But again, if you can supplement it with a decent sniper rifle, or if you have a decent heavy machine gun and you have heavy ammo, or if you have your super, you can fight in PvP that way. So, you know, I suppose you could say it's viable, but in the sense that you don't use it at all. So at Gambit overall, you know what? I'm going to say yes, it is viable in Gambit, but it is so crucial, much more crucial what other two weapons you're using than it would be for almost any other exotic. Like if you use Thunderlord as your heavy weapon, exotic, you have so many more options as to what you can use with your other two slots. So, viable in Gambit with an asterisk beside it. So overall, I would say it depends entirely on what it is you're looking for from Destiny at any given time. If you just want to potter about and have fun, Cerberus+1 is completely viable in PvE and in Gambit. It's fun, it's gimmicky, and you can live the power fantasy. Wouldn't recommend it for PvP ever, and if you're looking for substance over style, I wouldn't use it either. If you're being super serious and you want to get high-end activities done as quickly and efficiently as possible, couldn't recommend Cerberus at all. So overall, I'm going to say yes, it is viable, with the exception of PvP. Of course. Have you gotten this gun yourself? What do you think of it? Feel free to let me know in the comments. If there's any other exotic weapons you'd like to see me review, let me know. Just know that I've actually gotten very few of them, so it'll be a case of if I've gotten it or not. If I have gotten it, you want to hear me talk about it, feel free to let me know in the comment section. And if you are a hardcore player, if you raid all the time, if you've got your fully formed clan and your 6-man groups, and you've gotten every exotic under the sun, and you're coming from a different walk of life than me, what do you think of Cerberus+1? I want to hear from you in the comment section. Anyway, Guardians, happy dawning. I told you I wasn't going to be able to do consistent Destiny 2 content, but it would still crop up every now and then, and here it is. I had a lot of fun playing with Cerberus, and I had a lot of fun making this video, so hopefully more exotic reviews crop up in the near future. This is my last video of 2018, so Merry Christmas, Happy Dawning, have a great New Year, guys, and I'll see you in January. Cheers!